Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pearce. This is the Ukraine War News Update, the first part thereof for the 11th of October 2025. Before we get into the hits and losses, I just want to say a massive thanks to all the guests and all the viewers and all the donors, particularly on yesterday's 12.5-hour fundraising live stream marathon. I mean, my brain is mush. I can't begin to think what Jonathan thinks is like, because I had like a 4.5-hour hiatus where I went to the cinema and had a nice meal. So goodness me, he must be exhausted today. But more importantly, look at the statistics. We have just about closed out 2 trucks for ATP Geopolitics. Just insane. I can't thank you guys enough. Silicon Kern also is closed out a full truck yesterday from starting off, you know, quite far back. I mean, it's just phenomenal. And look at this. I don't know where we started, but it was way down from there, almost at the goal of 11 trucks in total. Just incredible. So you guys yesterday, thank you. I'm going to read through the donor wall, just not in this video, but there are many people to thank, particularly from my channel here. I mean, look at this entire donor wall from here onwards is from virtually every single one on this part of the donor wall is from yesterday. That is unbelievable. So thank you so much. Just a huge thanks to you. And I am going to do a big old thank you as a separate video. I keep promising that, but I will. Anyway, let's get on with the hits and losses. Right, we're going to start with the general staff figures for the day before. All the usual caveats apply. These are Russian losses. We have 1,060 personnel loss, so it's still over 1,000. A single tank, 6 troop carrying AFVs, 21 pieces of artillery equipment, which is an uptick from yesterday. 1 single multiple launch rocket system and 72 vehicles and fuel tanks, which is all right there. Now, there have been claims of huge attacks yesterday, so I am predicting that you may see an uptick tomorrow in terms of AFVs and possibly tanks, but particularly AFVs. We know by looking at the data, this is Dell's stats here. Well, it's a general staff stats, but Dell has put this together. Always linked in the description below, so you guys can check this out at your will. And thank you, Dell, for doing this religiously every single day. What an awesome guy. So we have AFVs. Yesterday was 14, so there's a real significant uptick yesterday, which would have been 2 days ago, essentially, in terms of stats, because today's stats are for yesterday. The day before stats would be for the day before that. So 14 losses 2 days ago, 6 losses yesterday. That 14 for a couple of days ago might pertain to these big attacks that have taken place. There have been 3 big attacks, one in Pokrovsk, which apparently was annihilated, one in Konstantinivka, which also was annihilated. Where was the third one? Was it Kupiansk, which I think was annihilated, but the Russians are having some success up in Kupiansk. Kupiansk is not looking good. They're having success right across the front line. Ukrainians having marginal success here and there, but just the losses that Russia are taking still are stupendous. A Russian soldier has shared what assaults are like under conditions of complete Ukrainian drone dominance in the small skies. According to him, Russian infantry are sent on missions to consolidate on captured positions with minimal rations. Each soldier has 2 or 3 bottles of water, 1 or 2 cans of canned meat. Quote, you can stay on a capture point for 20 or even 30 days. No, this was in 2024. Now it can be up to 3 months. That's the situation. He says, adding that the reason is that there are no people to replace them, because either they are killed on the way or the wounded hide, refusing to go. As for supplies, they're delivered by drones, bottles of water, some sausage, and if you're lucky, a loaf of bread. But if drones get shot down by Ukrainian troops, Russian soldiers have to go without water and food for days, gradually becoming human targets. So that's all looking rather grim for the Russians there, but nothing we haven't heard before. Now we understand a Ka-52 attack helicopter and Alligator, I think they're about $16 million, something like that, worth of kit, has been lost. And both crew as well, all the crew on board. I don't know how many, I think there were 2. Russian Z bloggers report a loss of a Ka-52 attack helicopter with 2 pilots. Yeah, according to them, the helicopter's loss was unrelated to fire impact. Now, if that's true, I don't doubt it really. I mean, when the Russians admit it like this, and it's happening, outside of the frontline areas, which I presume this is, but actually I can't say for sure. Then it probably is a case, they have lost it from some kind of accident. Remember, MiG-31 was lost just 2 days ago with the landing gear failure. So this is happening a fair bit at the moment. We've had a number of planes and helicopters go down. Now, Zelensky said yesterday that due to weather conditions, the repelling of attacks has decreased by 20 to 30%. Now, I'm interpreting that in the worst way here, which is that Ukraine has been unable to repel 20 to 30% of attacks that they otherwise would repel, which means attacks are getting through. I hope that I'm being accurate in my interpretation there. Now, the weather, I did say the other day, has played a part. If we go back to last week, we have a day of 870 there, and then it's gone right back up to over 1,000, even over 1,100. I have a feeling he's probably referring to this period there where the weather was definitely was bad. There were floods in Odesa, and we see a real lack of equipment, sort of 1 tank, 1 AFV for a number of days there. So that's my guess as to when that happened. And indeed, we hear that these attacks that had just taken place, I don't know exactly when. Were they yesterday? Were they the day before? Were they the day before that? Was also under the the claim is that they were trying to use bad weather to attack. So I think bad weather might well have continued, even though the losses have gone up. So after a long pause, Russian is again sending big armoured columns into attack, says Special Kherson. A mass assault with 35 tanks and AFVs on the Ukrainian positions took place in the area of responsibility, the Azov 1st Corps. So October the 9th, this was 2 days ago. Ocheritina axis, so not too far from Pokrovsk, just left of Avdiivka. Russia launched a massed assault, 35 tanks and AFVs, preceded by waves of motorcycles, aiming to seize Shakova. Results were that 107 personnel were killed, 51 wounded. There was 1 ARV recovery vehicle destroyed or damaged, 3 tanks, 16 AFVs, plus 41 motorcycles and 2 light tanks. That would fit in with this day here: 14 AFVs, 5 tanks. That could well be the 10th, but there are supposedly a couple of other large-scale attacks that have been repelled as well. Here's a claim from Null Reports. Ukrainian Air Force air assault forces repelled a major Russian assault on the Dobropilly axis. Russians attempted to capture Vodimirivka and Sofivka using 6 tanks, around 40 IFVs, 40 plus vehicles and 700 troops. Ukraine destroyed 3 tanks, 13 IFVs, 41 vehicles and eliminated around 100 personnel. So looks like that's the same event there, and that is where it is on the map. If you know, that's Shakova. Just to the left you've got the bunny ears sort of area. Here, up northwest from there, just up here where my face is, that's basically where the sort of bunny ears area is of the Dobropilly axis. The enemy, with a large group of armored vehicles, attempted to break through to the village of Volodymyrivka, west of the T-0504 across to Konstantinivka highway. Yesterday, Deep State resources claimed that Russians managed to land a significant number of infantry in the village. However, there are claims that the Ukrainians fully cleared out those infantry who landed, but pinch of salt and whatnot. Up to 20 armored vehicles, including armored tanks, were involved in the assault on the Ukrainian positions. Several waves of assaults were directed at the line of our defenders, which lasted practically the whole day. It can be assumed that yesterday's explosion of an ammonia pipeline near the neighbouring settlement of Rusin Yar was connected with this assault and was intended to try to distract the attention of the Ukrainian defenders. And that's something I reported yesterday. What else do we have? Unable to hold territory, Russian forces are now destroying it in Sumy region. The 119th Airborne Regiment is deliberately levelling the village of Unikivka, because that's what freedom looks like in Russia, or in this case in Ukraine, as they try to liberate it. So if we can't have it, it will be destroyed. Look at Kherson. Sources report that its commander personally ordered strikes on civilian infrastructure. Who knew? Complete bastards. But it is tough for the Ukrainians. Like, okay, so the Russians have lost some large amounts of equipment in a number of massed attacks. Well, here's a video showing destroyed Ukrainian armored and unarmored vehicles in the area north of Pokrovsk. So this is a kind of logistics route getting hammered repeatedly, demonstrating how difficult the situation is for logistics, says Rob Lee. It's not logistics that have been hit here. According to Thorkill, it's Ukrainians tentatively trying to take back the pig farm between Mirnohrad and Radinsky. So actually, it's right on the front line, if this source is to be believed. So there could be, it's actually on the south side of the bulge, and the losses were accumulated over many months. Okay, so not logistics. So we have to be careful with all the sources. Rob Lee's a pretty decent source, to be honest. But there are other claims that actually this is equipment that's been lost over several months, and although some of it's obviously very recent, it's still smoking, and it is right on the front line, on the bulge of the front line, that cauldron. Okay. Russian volunteers from the Free Legion of Russia, together with Special Forces of the Active Operations Unit, the GUR Ferrata, are opening a new direction in the fight against the Russian occupation regime, now also in the surface plane. A bit of weird English here. For the first time in the history of Russian volunteer movement, it became possible to involve surface unmanned boats, which is an important step to expanding the tools of resistance. But this is only the beginning. New stages, deeper raids, and expansion of resistance fronts lie ahead. This is quite a good sign, really, when you've got Russian fighters, pro-Ukrainian Russian fighters, being given access to really decent equipment here. So we've got USVs, unmanned surface vehicles, and doesn't surprise me too much, because these are the vehicles it appears that Ukraine is trying to export to countries now that the regulation has been relaxed. That would suggest that they have enough of these in order to be able to export them more USVs than they can use. Well, it makes sense then to broaden the access to these vehicles by other units. And here we understand that together with, you probably wouldn't want to let the Free Legion of Russia, given that, like the other day I was telling you that one of them was arrested for actually spying for the Russians. So you're always going to be slightly wary of these guys just because of the nature of who they are. They are Russians who have turned a coat. Nonetheless, with the guidance of the GUR, the military intelligence, they are having access to decent equipment there. So that's good news. Now we also hear, and this is a kind of repudiation of F-16s won't make a difference type thing. We are hearing that F-16s are now taking over the skies, flying 80% of combat missions against Russia, according to United 24. Go back and look up with US officials what they were saying about why Ukraine didn't need F-16s, says Michael Rice, the journalist, and how long it would take them to learn how to fly them. Well, actually, now they are flying them in quite a significant manner. Like I've said to you before, I think a real game changer would be another 70 planes. They really need that. Now, some time back, I reported this. There was a claim of either sabotage or drones or something. It was a railway crash. Russian Railways is reported to have faked a Ukrainian attack to cover up its own culpability for a fatal derailment in the Leningrad region on September of this year, caused when a locomotive was ordered to be driven at over twice the permitted speed limit. The crash of the TEP-70BS, a diesel-electric locomotive, occurred on the 14th of September near Semrino station in the Gachina district of the Leningrad region. The driver was freed after being trapped in a cab but died in an ambulance. The crash occurred on the same day as a separate derailment of the locomotive pulling 15 empty tank cars in the Luzhki district of the Leningrad region. Both crashes were widely suspected to be the work of Ukrainian or anti-Putin partisan sabotage. However, one Telegram channel reports that Russian Railways' internal investigations found that the locomotive was being driven at 163 kilometers an hour at the moment of derailment, more than twice the permitted speed of 80 kilometers an hour. The driver is said to have been ordered by his superiors to override safety features and greatly exceed the speed limit. After the crash, they falsely claimed to the media that sabotage was expected, apparently to conceal their culpability. so on and so forth. You get the point there. Doesn't surprise me whatsoever. So actually, it's not always sabotage when there are issues on a railway. Now, I don't know what has caused this, but a lot of people talking about this last night. According to several local Telegram channels, a test was carried out in the town of Peresvet near Moscow, which is well known for its Roscosmos space facilities. Video footage from the Supernova Telegram channel shows that the test areas appear to have been successful. The test appears to have been successful. Well, good test there, because yeah, something's definitely smoking. Goodness me, don't know what's going on there, but as mentioned, there's quite a lot of people talking about it. An explosion was reported by local residents in the Moscow region at a research centre. The rocket and space industry officials, however, described the incident as a scheduled test. And here is another angle, significant amount of smoke. Declared as testing of the engine of the Russian space rocket at the village of Peresvet in Moscow region. Also, this is Moscow region. This is this morning. I don't know what this is, but it's on fire and it's pretty significant by the looks of it. So another serious fire taking place in the Moscow region. Sabotage, careless smoking, or a strike. I don't know there's a strike, although there were quite a lot of drones sent into Russia last night. Very little information on them from a Ukrainian point of view. Moving on to those distant strikes. So a couple of significant fires yesterday and this morning, but possibly not even to do with strikes. Right, 78 drones sent in, 54 intercepted. So that's not too bad. I say not too bad. There's still 24 drones getting through. And these things pack quite a punch. So it is a challenge every night for the Ukrainians. Here is an infographic from ISW showing you the sheer volume of the strikes at the moment. There was that area where I was thinking there was some strikes on the logistics chain, on the manufacturing, and then it's ramped back up. I really think manufacturing needs to be absolutely hammered. It's just too much for the Ukrainians. I'm positive. Footage of a Ukrainian Vampire or Brawler SAM system, surface-to-air missile system, shooting down a Russian Kh-69 cruise missile with a low-cost APKWS laser-guided rocket. These were the rockets that were, a number of them were redirected, or at least I think fuses and mechanisms for the rockets redirected to the Middle East when Pete Hegseth said, no, they need them over here. It happened twice, didn't it? One, they stopped a bunch of stuff, and then another time they actively redirected this kit to the Middle East. It's this kit that you can see being used there effectively. Confirms that the platform, initially intended as an anti-drone weapon, can also successfully down higher end threats. That is a very good thing to see. The SNC revealed their Brawler a few days ago, very likely currently in Ukrainian service. Sierra Nevada's new air defense system is deployed somewhere. Archival footage confirms that the platform seen in the first video is launching an APKWS laser-guided rocket. Key signs are the interface and the laser designator on the aerial target. So for those geeks that know about this stuff, that definitely does seem like an APKWS, one that is laser-guided. You often hear about these. Is it the Harris L3? Is that similar? But yeah, the APKWS, they can be loaded on helicopters, and then you've seen them on the back of Humvees, and now I think they can be utilized in a number of different ways. Now, really good news here. News came out yesterday that UK will produce 2,000 interceptor drones. Now, that's probably an illustrative picture. I have no idea what these drones actually look like, but 2,000 drones per month for Ukraine to defend itself from Russian drones. That, as long as these guys are effective, that is super useful, because obviously Ukraine are producing a load of their own stuff, and they're getting other interceptor drones from other, I believe there's a German interceptor drone that I was looking at yesterday that's been developed as well by, I think, is it Quantum Systems? There are many people like piling in to help Ukraine out with this, because I guess there's money to be made, but actually there's a real need, significant need. So these drone attacks are unsustainable. So I keep saying you absolutely have to blow up Yellow-Buga, but in the event that you can't blow up Yellow-Buga for whatever reason, then you really do need that sticking plaster to be really effective. You need that sticking plaster to be as big and as and to soak up as much blood as possible. and that comes in a form, to extend this metaphor, in the form of huge numbers of interceptor drones, because these are cheaper than sending. In fact, Zelensky said yesterday, we can't send Patriot missiles to shoot down Shahids. It's not going to happen. They have to be taken down by cheaper means. Over the past 10 days, Russia has attacked 63 energy facilities. This is why I've been worried about Ukraine, and Russia's. There is an asymmetry there still there, and Russia does have the upper hand of being able to cripple Ukraine, I think, more effectively than Ukraine can cripple Russia without just an absolute ton more missiles. And that's what we're hoping for. We're hoping that in a couple of days' time, in a week's time or something, that Ukraine will suddenly be able to have stockpiled or made or whatever enough missiles and drones to do this to Russia in the same way. So during today's attack, says Max 25, the enemy hit 10 energy facilities, 5 hydroelectric power plants, 2 thermal plants, 2 thermal power plants, and 1 substation. In total, 21 traction substations, 22 energy substations, 8 thermal power plants, 7 thermal power plants. That looks like 15. 5 hydroelectric power plants were attacked in 10 days. Last night, the Russians targeted Kiev's TPP-5 and TPP-6 with drones and missiles. So this was released yesterday, by the way. It's not talking about last night, but actually the night before, when they had a big old attack. Next massive shelling may occur within 48 hours. So, there is real worry, particularly in the domain of Ukrainian energy, for Ukraine at the moment. Russian forces struck energy infrastructure last night, though, so this is going on to definitely last night. Energy infrastructure, you can tell from the white kind of flaring there, in the Odesa region, causing power outages across several settlements. Restoration efforts are underway. If you were a bitter ender, said Tim White last night on his thread, his all-day thread, and made it all the way to the end of Friday's thread, you'll know Saturday started with a big drone swarm attack on Odesa, and power and water was cut off in many places. 21 people were treated for shock. Firefighters released this video. A hotel and restaurant complex was among objects damaged in blasts and fires in Odesa. Firefighters rescued 2 people. 47-year-old woman's in hospital. Energy infrastructure was hit, and 47 towns and villages are without power, may also be without water. Kherson Council reports Russia attacked an ambulance brigade in the city overnight. Emergency vehicle was attacked by a drone. 60-year-old driver has been hospitalized with explosive injuries. In separate incidents, 4 more people were injured in Kherson yesterday. Kherson is horrendous there, isn't it? But actually, those emergency workers being attacked there weren't the only ones being attacked last night. Russian terrorist attacks on the power grid in Odesa left 44 settlements, it says here, not 47, but somewhere around that, maybe more than what's reported here, without electricity for last night. Russia targets Ukraine's energy infrastructure ahead of winter and deprives Ukrainians of essential heating, power and water as temperatures drop. The drone assaults also damaged a 3-story hotel restaurant complex, private houses, and 25-story residential building. Then here's the horrific targeting of emergency workers. Russian forces killed 2 energy workers here. So people going to fix the energy infrastructure that Russia has destroyed, then get hit in a kind of double tap. It's horrific. In Chernihiv Oblast, using double strike tactics, hitting their vehicle with a drone, then attacking again as colleagues tried to rescue them. 1 severely wounded worker died later in hospital, bringing the death toll to 2, with 3 others injured. Russian forces then attacked the local fire team that arrived to help, damaging a fire truck, though no firefighters were injured in that strike. It's horrible. In Rivne, power's partially gone out. Traffic lights were not working last night. Trolley buses had stopped moving. So again, power being hit all over Ukraine. Videos emerged of the strikes on Kiev from the night before. So this is 2 nights ago. Massive explosion there. Just goes to show how significant the strikes often are. And of course, much of Kiev was then without power. Unconfirmed, but in total, it's believed Russia managed to hit 13 power facilities around Ukraine in the attack 2 nights ago, and they were listed earlier. Honestly, it was massive, and that's why I was trying to make this point on that gargantuan live stream last night that Ukraine, I know at the very end, if you're there at the very end, Operator Skarsky is like, no, I'm really hopeful, I'm really positive in answer to my claim, which is like, Ukraine are in some trouble here, and they have to do something about Yelabuga. They have to do something about their own energy infrastructure getting absolutely shellacked. And if that has an effect on military-industrial complex, then that stops them being able to build the equipment that they so desperately need. And indeed, a chilling warning from Kiev's mayor Vitaly Klitschko yesterday that a new attack is predicted, and residents must stock up on water, food, first aid kits, warm clothes, and be as pragmatic as possible. That's not really very happy predictions of the future there. And then here we have Volgograd was hit last night. So a lot of drones, I think, were sent into Russian airspace last night, but we hardly have any battle damage assessment. Only the explosions in Volgograd. There's some stuff in Moscow on fire today, but other than that, I don't really know. Hopefully, there was a lot more damage done by the Ukrainians last night, more than we know about. The Korobkovsky gas processing plant that was hit the other night, October the 9th, has halted operations for 3 months after that strike. The sulfur purification unit sustained significant damage there. And then we heard yesterday that actually Ukraine's foreign ministry is gearing up to receive Tomahawks. Trump administration and the MFA are engaged in positive and nuanced technical discussions on the provision of Tomahawk missiles. They contrast it with what Biden administration said in a blunt no. Zelensky also asked Trump for more ATACMS and Gimler's missiles, so missiles for HIMARS and whatnot. That would be great news if Tomahawks can go, but as I said last night, it's not too little too late, but it is too late for right now. Like, they need that capability right now flying at Yelabuga. End of. But would still be hugely welcome, of course. Now, Spiegel reporting that drones have been spotted over a NATO base in Germany with nuclear early warning aircraft. Unidentified drones were spotted in no-fly zone above the NATO airbase in Geilenkirchen in West Germany. The incident occurred in the evening of October the 8th. Again, like I discussed at some point yesterday, this is Russia, this is Russia overstretching. Like, Putin has to play a careful game here. Like, if I was to be Putin, pro-Russia, blah, 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 I'd be thinking, right, I want to do war with Ukraine in a way where I'm very carefully walking this delicate line between destroying Ukraine as much as possible, but not overdoing it, and not overdoing it against other countries where if they find out that we're doing X, Y, and Z, then they unify against us. Like the idea that, well, the fact that you had Russian planes in Estonian airspace and doing low flyovers over Polish rigs and drones going into Poland, in my opinion, is absolutely ridiculous. All that has done is it's unified the EU, unified NATO. They've tightened their rules. They're going to shoot down stuff inside NATO airspace, and it just means that Ukraine's allies are even more united. Whereas if you just carried on doing this war and just wait for people to get bored, rather than doing stuff to poke them, to get them angry and unified, you know, the more that the people of Europe realize we're at war with Russia, the more they accept military aid going to Ukraine and money from countries going to Ukraine. So Russia have to play this very delicate line, and I don't think they always do. Sometimes I think they make really stupid decisions. And if they are responsible for drones over all of these properties, all these sensitive targets inside Europe, then they're being stupid. Okay, anyway. In Russia, the burden of paying the military enrollment bonuses falls on the local government. As the money dries up, the bonus was abruptly cut to a third of its original amount, which I think shows you there's a bit of pressure. There's obviously financial pressure inside Russia, but that goes to kind of these recruitment bonuses and whatnot. In addition to the absolute number falling by 2/3, the buying power of the ruble is declining. So despite printing money as fast as the presses will run, there are fewer things to buy and they cost ever more. Russia has set the stage for a Weimar Republic style hyperinflation. That's one way of looking at it, and it's not looking good in very many of these different sectors. So a hole of 800 billion rubles has been found in the budget of the pension fund of Russia. And I was telling you about people being furloughed yesterday. That had particularly affecting the metallurgical sector, which was hard hit. And yeah, there are all sorts of issues. Now, we're going to finish off the video by talking about Trump and Putin. Putin is he's a wily old sod, isn't he? He knows that if you massage Trump's ego, then he loves it. He loves a bit of massaging, does Trump. He didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize yesterday. Hilariously, you had, Mike Waltz and Marco Rubio had actually sent letters into the Nobel Peace Prize to recommend the Venezuelan opposition leader. I mean, this is a big area of Marco Rubio's concern, right? Nonetheless, that's fairly embarrassing. So Trump didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize. He's then sounding off, and Putin wades in and says, is devaluing the Nobel Peace Prize, blah, blah, blah. He's all on like Trump's side, very publicly says these statements that Trump then reiterates, and that is a win. I mean, this is Putin playing Trump like a fiddle. Phillips O'Brien says, and guess what? Yesterday, Putin batted his eyelashes at Trump and Melania, and the first couple were grateful for the love and attention. People need to accept the reality that Trump will always crave Putin's affections and cares not one whit for Ukraine. This is the reality, and he says, Phillips O'Brien, I've written a catechism to make that reality clear. This was what Trump posted. He solves complex problems, crises that last for decades, said Putin about Trump and about the Nobel Peace Prize. And Trump loves it. He's absolutely sucked in by it. Right, let's just see if there's any last minute things to report. No, I was going to do that. My geopolitics update. North Korea, nope. Hydroelectric power plants, a machine hall and dam from a Russian missile attack on the 10th. So this is another energy facility that has been hit by the Russians. And obviously that can cause serious oh, look at that. That's bad. That's looking pretty bad there. So, the Ukraine's energy infrastructure is just being battered. And it's definitely a real worry. Okay, that's enough from, here we go. No, the warehouses. So these are the warehouses that have caught fire. The Electro-style warehouses near Moscow covering 1,500 square meters. It was extinguished according to local fire services there. Okay. Right, that's enough from me for today. Thank you very much again for yesterday's donations. Just truly tremendous. I cannot thank you enough. Let's just get the final on them before I say goodbye and have to go and watch my son play football, which I'm very much looking forward to. We are just a hair's breadth away from the 22,000, a mere 60 spondoolies away from there. So if anyone can look behind the sofa today and empty their kids' piggy bank, no, don't do that. But if you do have the wherewithal and the desire, please help out there, and we will have closed out 2 trucks. Phenomenal. Thank you. Legends, one and all. Toodle pips.